show you a live look from Skyforce 10 over the city, over that fire where a peaceful demonstration took a violent turn tonight. Fires burning across the city. Right now, flames raging at a building at 17th and Walnut, a block hit heavy by looters and vandals, although it's still unclear exactly how it started. And right now, police are trying to clear the streets to put an end to the violence and bring some calm to this city, shaken by the police custody death of George Floyd in Minneapolis. This was the scene across Center City tonight. Cars and police cruisers torched as massive crowds watched them burn. A Starbucks in flames just steps from City Hall. Storefronts along Walnut and Chestnut Streets smashed and ransacked as looters took whatever they could carry. Good evening, everyone. I'm Keith Jones.
And I'm Denise Nakano. There is now a curfew in effect for the city of Philadelphia. It's been in effect since 8 o'clock, and only people with essential duties are allowed outside until 6 o'clock tomorrow morning. Now, one of the first violent signs of things to come happened earlier this afternoon at Broad and Vine. That's where Skyforce 10 captured a state police vehicle on fire while demonstrators and police filled the streets.
We want to show you this. Our crew has been spread out across the city tonight to serve you, monitoring what's happening. We're going to send it back now to NBC 10's Aaron Baskerville. He's out there at that fire scene where there are a ton of people out there. Aaron, tell us what's happening.
Keith and Denise, yeah, we're at 17th and Walnut right now. This area is completely blocked off. A lot of it is blocked off by officers in riot gear, as you can see standing right next to me. A lot of the action is behind us over here at the building. That is the Vans store that is on fire. We do have a view from Skyforce 10 from above. Presumably, firefighters are telling us this fire was set by looters earlier tonight. So the past hour or so, they've been trying to fight this fire. They're hitting it with water right now as we speak. And I can tell you, they've been pushing people back from this area big time here. Officers have been rushing the looters who have been coming down here, trying to disturb the peace and cause chaos. If we can break away from that fire for a second and just come down here below. Once again, we're at 17th and Walnut. Just a quick tour of what's going on around here. You can see people are upset and fired up. You can see on the Chase building right there, I can't breathe. Obviously in honor of George Floyd, the man who was killed in Minneapolis. This did start as a peaceful protest, but then turn violent. This is the Lucky brand. This is what you're going to see up and down Walnut. I can tell you almost every single storefront has been broken into, windows smashed. You can hear the sound of the alarm. That's also a familiar sound if you walk the streets. One more thing, let's just come across the street again. You can see the heavy police presence down here, cars lined up as far as the eye can see. There are still some small smoldering fires. That's a mannequin that was set on fire right there. And over here, you can just see still a little fire smoldering in the clothes over here. This is the Urban Outfitters. And you can see what the folks did inside here. Windows smashed out, broken. And like I said, this is a familiar scene. You can literally look inside every single storefront out here. I don't want people to forget what this was truly about in the beginning. It was about a peaceful protest in honor of George Floyd. But of course, that took a turn earlier tonight. And once again, 17th and Walnut, the action continues to be on the Vans building that's on fire right now. We're going to be out here, of course, for the next hour or so, giving you some updates. We'll talk a little bit later about this curfew and how police were really focused on the curfew around 8 o'clock tonight, pushing people back, a lot of violent confrontations. We're going to have that for you later on in the show. Let's send it back to you guys, Keith and Denise.
All right, Aaron Baskerville live for us down at that fire at 17th and Walnut. Aaron, thank you. Officers made several arrests, by the way, along Walnut Street during the Center City chaos.
Our cameras captured members of the police strike force team take suspects into custody earlier tonight.
We want to show you this, too. Take a look at some smashed out storefronts near Broad and Arch. So this was not just secluded to one neighborhood. You could see glass scattered across the sidewalk. Other demonstrators here walked around on the sidewalk with signs, with that heavy police presence around. Let's go out to NBC 10's Drew Smith. He's live. He's been seeing this looting firsthand. And like Aaron Baskerville, Drew, you've been walking the streets all day monitoring this. What have you seen? What's the latest?
Well, Keith, we're one block up from where Aaron is at the corner of Rittenhouse Square Park. You can actually see that the bank here has been defaced in multiple areas, as well as all of the stuff that people have left behind from their looting, and a lot of the firefighters are coming back from that fire at this point. But we aren't seeing the looting going on anymore because police really did show a big show of force after there were several hours of looting, particularly in this area. I want you to take a look just down this street, and you can just see it's trashed. All of that stuff that people took out of the stores have now littered Walnut Street here. There's just coat hangers everywhere you look, and the glass. If we kind of move a little bit, I want to show you just the hole in the side of this bank. This is the second TD Bank we've seen defaced tonight. The first one was over at City Hall. Somebody actually breached the bank with a big gate that they used. But you can see the hole in the side of this one. There's graffiti all over the place as well. So no business was spared from a lot of the looting that went on. On the other side of Walnut Street, you see this is some of the prime retail area in Center City, Philadelphia. These are really fancy shops. They have a lot of expensive merchandise inside of them, and people were smashing the windows and going in and just loading up with as much as they could and running off. Again, that stopped after 8 o'clock when the curfew went into effect and police came out and started making arrests, but this went on unabated for quite a bit of time. We spoke to some of the people that live down here. I asked them, looking at this, how do you feel about it? People are just saying it's horribly sad. They don't know how these businesses will come back, especially after the pandemic that we've been going through, and that's been tough on them as well. But there was a lot of merchandise in these stores that's no longer there. I also spoke to one other business owner. He owned an eyeglasses. He was selling those, and somebody had smashed his window down. He came out and was trying to stop people to come in, and one of his neighbors actually came down who was armed, and they were able to save that store and the merchandise in there. So it was kind of people battling it out. If there was an owner, they were able to try to salvage. This place right here is a bar, and we saw the owners in there trying to sweep and clean up, but there's going to be so much cleaning up to do in the city of Philadelphia. Many of the blocks down here on Chestnut, Walnut, Sansom, we saw fires. We saw a lot of merchandise. Even pianos were being thrown into the street and destroyed and defaced. We're live in Rittenhouse Square. I'm Drew Smith, NBC 10 News.
Looting going on even in front of the eyes of the camera. All right, Drew, thank you so much. And NBC 10 has been hearing reports of damage near Reading Terminal Market, and that's where NBC 10's Stephen Fisher joins us live. And Stephen, what are you learning?
Yeah, Denise, we're actually over on 15th and Walnut right now, and again, it's a similar story over here. Check out this T-Mobile store. You can see that all the glass here, nice storefront, all smashed in. Doesn't really look like itself. There is just debris and glass everywhere, and this goes on for blocks, as you just saw with Drew and Aaron as well. But if you come down this way, we want to show you that some people used some different types of things to break into some of these stores. If you see Butcher Singer here, just inside this smashed-in doorway, you'll find a bat, a baseball bat, also some sneakers there with a price tag still on it. People took all kinds of different things. We have all certain kinds of shoe boxes all out here, wrappers, there's hangers out here, there's a pair of jeans just sitting in the middle of the street here. A lot of mess on Walnut Street, pretty much up and down here. You can see across the street here, the Champion store was ransacked as well. And as you just keep going down and down and down, as Drew mentioned, there is not really one business that was not affected in a major way. Even some spray paint there on the outside of PNC Bank. So just a lot of debris, a lot of different kinds of stores that were hit. Now, fortunately, you can see that we're walking in the middle of Walnut right now. We have police on this side of us, and we have police down here. They do seem to have a control of this area of Walnut Street at this hour. That is the good news. But again, you can see everything that was all torn down. People were here for a long time, and they took really didn't hold back at all when they went and tried to take things. We've seen people with duffel bags. People walked out with certain kinds of shirts, and again, as we mentioned, all kinds of different shoes. But again, police are trying to make sure that people are going home. The curfew, of course, is in order, 8 p.m. to 6 a.m. We have seen some people arrested this evening. We've also seen police just try and usher the crowd and try and disperse this crowd as peacefully as they can. We'll send it back into you guys.
Stephen Fisher live for us right there. You got to keep in mind, too, this is during a pandemic, a deadly pandemic, that is, where an outbreak of coronavirus is around the city. These businesses already hurting. Just some context as we continue to cover what's going on out here. Stephen, thanks. The day started, of course, peaceful when the protest went from City Hall to the Art Museum. An estimated 3,000 people joined together on the steps, and even took a knee for justice for George.
But then things took a turn. The statue of Frank Rizzo was vandalized with spray paint, and hundreds of people tried to take it down. They tied a rope and tried to topple the statue of the former police commissioner and mayor of Philadelphia. And several buildings were set on fire across the city. The Starbucks near City Hall went up in flames around 6:30 tonight. Here's what it looked like on the ground and what it sounded like. You could hear there the sound of loud explosions. NBC 10's Brandon Hudson joins us live from 12th and Market. Brandon?
Yeah, hey, Denise, what you're seeing right now is police just actually caught up some people who were looting. They had a bag from a bunch of other places. Police told the guy to drop it. The guy dropped it, and he kept walking down the street here. But this is what we've seen police do all day. We are outside the Wawa on 12th and Market here. You can see people hit this place hard. The shattered glass on one side of the window, but you can look inside, see food is all over the ground. The cash registers are destroyed. The place is wet because we heard from police that someone set fire inside, and then people just kind of came in and took whatever they wanted. They broke in through this glass door here. This gives you a good look at what's going on inside and what happened inside. Drinks are on the ground. Signs are knocked over. But as we come around here for the Wawa, again, you can take another look at what's inside. I think if you look closely towards the other entrance of the store, you can see some food was burned. They knocked over where the water bottles were, and they took water bottles. But to give you a point of reference, we're at 12th and Market, just down the street from Reading Terminal Market. Things have gotten a bit calmer now, but they did board up this Hard Rock Cafe. May have suspected something was going to happen tonight, so they took their proper precautions. Traffic is able to move through, so is foot traffic, but we're kind of caught in the middle, and this actually just formed within the last few minutes right as we're going live. But you see a long line of police cars, you see a SWAT vehicle that's also in line over there, and then you see another officer who is actually walking through the crosswalk. He's got another bag, possibly from someone who was looting a store. They're going to take that bag over and collect that and do whatever they can with it. But as you said, this day did not start out like this. It started with a peaceful protest, and here's what happened earlier today. Philly police in full force as the citywide curfew stretched into the night next to a smoky Wawa at 12th and Market, which police say someone set on fire. Cops hauled in several people suspected of causing chaos during the city's first day of protests sparked by the death of George Floyd. Before sunset, frustrations had already reached a fever pitch in Center City. Skyforce 10 flew over two vandalized Pennsylvania State Police SUVs at North Broad and Vine Streets. One SUV burned as a large crowd watched and some confronted police. Then a shoving match developed yards away overlooking 676.
We're gonna take it to the street!
Philadelphia police called in backup as the first day of demonstrations in memory of George Floyd took a chaotic turn. The day's events started organized with chants and marching against police brutality. From the streets of downtown Wilmington to a neighborhood in Camden and the heart of Philadelphia.
What brought me out here today was when I seen a video of him crying for his mama. That really broke my heart.
Teresa Costello made her sign based on George Floyd's final words caught on cell phone video. As a mother who lost a son to violence, Teresa sympathizes with Floyd's family.
This needs to stop, and we're fed up and we're tired. And people have no way to express their anger and pain, so that's why they loot and do things that they shouldn't do.
Video of George Floyd's arrest and later death after a Minneapolis police officer kneeled on his neck sparked all kinds of emotions coast to coast.
Sometimes I like to go out and take a drive just to clear my head. I was scared to go out just to get pulled over, especially where I live in West Philly. You get pulled over for nothing, and you never know how it could escalate.
Even after the cops involved were fired and one was arrested, buildings burned and businesses were vandalized. Some of what happened in Minneapolis is now happening in Philly. It halted public transportation and forced one woman to walk home from JFK to Temple, walking boot and all.
Like I said, I understand they're angry. I'm mad. I'm tired. You know, I'm 67. I'm tired of seeing things. You know, and these young people don't understand. They don't understand the struggle or how to struggle. So all they know is, you know, to be volatile.
Now, we came up Market on the other side of 12th Street, right across the street from the Lowe's Hotel, but we wanted to give you a look at the line of police cars. You have a van from Delaware County, you have Philly police. This is what we pointed out earlier before we went to our story. This is our SWAT vehicle that's around here. You have police that are also out just talking to people. This line just formed within the last 10 minutes or so. So you have a lot of law enforcement that are here, maybe expecting a crowd to move this way towards Market, right by City Hall. I will point this out. We're right across from SEPTA, and if we have anything else, we'll bring it to you. Reporting live here in Center City, I'm Brandon Hudson, NBC 10 News.
All right, Brandon, stay safe out there. All right, Skyforce 10 has been bringing you some incredible images all day long, including that of a fire at 17th and Walnut. Aaron Baskerville standing by. Aaron, you've been there all day. Heavy police presence there as they continue to battle it.
Yeah, Keith, it just sparked back up, as you can see from the ground. If we can take a view up there a little bit, you can see the glow. It just continues to glow, and we believe it's jumped to another building. Of course, Skyforce 10 live above this fire as well for you. And this just happened just in the last 2-3 minutes. The flames sparked once again and started to rage from that Vans building up top. You can see just the glow. It's going like crazy. We are at 17th and Walnut. This started at the Vans building down here. Presumably firefighters telling us that they believe it was started by looters. And now you can see from above at Skyforce 10 that this fire has fully started once again. They were battling it, shooting water at it from below. There was just a kind of heavy smoke scene here, and then all of a sudden you can kind of see that glow happen. And like I said just a couple minutes ago, you can see those flames, and Skyforce 10 giving you that great view. We do believe it has now jumped from that Vans building over to at least one other building out here in the 1700 block of Walnut. So this is where all the action is right now. Skyforce 10, like I said, giving you that great view. If you come back out here live, you can see right here it's being protected by anybody coming down to this area by cops in riot gear. And they've been standing guard, protecting this area. This is also part of that curfew that was going on starting at 8 o'clock tonight. And we are just getting word that we believe it's now jumped to another building. So we're looking at possibly 3 buildings right now that are on fire in the 1700 block of Walnut. And this is an area, obviously, that people are very familiar with, but I can tell you, you come down here tomorrow, it's going to be a completely different scene. Every single storefront has windows blown out. Looters have taken advantage. If we can burn it right now, this is what this was all about. This is what everybody down here will say. Justice for Floyd. This is a bank building. Remember, this did start off as a peaceful protest, and then at some point today, later on this afternoon, it started to turn into a violent protest, then of course looting, and this curfew thing is that we're going to get to that in a little bit. We have some video of violent confrontations between police and some of the looters that were out here trying to push them back, get them out of the area, and really enforce that curfew for folks out here. But once again, look up top, the glow, it starts to glow again. It's just kind of reignited in the last couple of minutes out here. I don't know if we can go back to Skyforce 10 as well to give you that view from above, but this is the center of it all at this point right now. There are all sorts of firefighters down here and officers just trying to protect the scene for now. We're going to send it back to you, Keith and Denise, and of course we'll be out here. We'll come back to you in a few more minutes with some other stuff from this area.
And speaking of first responders like firefighters and paramedics and the police officers there behind you, you have to then consider that they're also dealing in a pandemic as they try to keep the peace here. More than a dozen of them injured, in fact. Aaron Baskerville live for us there outside the fire. Thanks. Mayor Kenney, earlier today, about 8 o'clock's time, city and religious leaders, they spoke out in a unified front tonight.
Yeah, they said what happened today is unacceptable and that it only detracts from the message peaceful protesters are trying to make.
None of today's acts of violence or damage to property will do anything to restore faith and trust between the police and communities of color.
Trust me, do not burn down your own house. That is never a good thing. Do not burn down your own house.
We have to also ask ourselves, do we want to take away from the point in which we're trying to really make out here? We have a city in which we have to go back to post-corona. And if we destroy everything, what is it that we'll have to go back to?
We are the city of brotherly love and sisterly affection. And we live by that meaning.
That is what we need: peace, calm, and order. And it will take a unified, collective, and consistent effort to accomplish this.
A joint plea right there. And earlier tonight, Pennsylvania Governor Tom Wolf announced that more staff has been added to the state's emergency management agency. The governor says his administration is ready to offer assistance needed to keep communities from suffering from more violence. Now, the governor also released a statement on Twitter. It says, quote, "Throughout Pennsylvania, people are protesting violence and injustice that occurs far too often against people of color. Everyone should speak out. No one should be at risk of harm because of oppression or racism."
All right, of all the surreal and sad scenes we've seen today, this one right here sticks out. A man playing piano inside a looted store. We're following the fallout from today's protest on air and online. We're live out in the streets of Philadelphia tonight. Next, how police are trying to gain control of the situation now that we're more than 3 hours after curfew. Skyforce 10 has been following the chaos in Philadelphia from above. Right now, you're looking at the fire at a building in Center City. 3 buildings are on fire. In fact, you see that smoke pouring from this fire that's actually reignited in the last few minutes. This is at 17th and Walnut, a block from where looters have targeted, but it is still unclear how the fire started. All right, now we want to check out this video earlier in the day when tensions between police and protesters started to escalate. Again, this started peacefully. You could see officers and protesters pushing each other. Several things then were tossed at police. And tonight we're also seeing looting in parts of Wilmington. This was some of the damage left behind.
Yes, several businesses along Market Street were broken into tonight. Police worked to clear out the crowds and even brought in an armored vehicle to help out. Now, the looting came hours after police had to temporarily shut down part of I-95 near MLK Boulevard after protesters got on both sides of the highway. Skyforce 10 shows dozens of people standing on the interstate as police blocked the lanes with their patrol cars and traffic cones. The interstate was eventually cleared and has since reopened. And in South Jersey, a peaceful march for justice in Camden this afternoon. Camden County's police chief joined dozens of demonstrators as they all marched from the police administration building. Some of them held a huge banner as they walked along there.
All right, a look at more of the chaotic moments during protests near Philadelphia City Hall this afternoon. Protesters threw barriers and construction cones on this armored vehicle here. Police ended up using pepper spray to disperse that crowd. And this was the scene along Broad and Vine in Center City. You can see some thick black smoke, and look at those flames in the distance. That's from a car fire not far from a large crowd. Police later fired tear gas to control this crowd. We're going to be back with a check on the fire burning on Walnut Street in just a bit. Firefighters have a disaster on their hands. 3 different buildings here ablaze. We'll be right back. Welcome back. Take a look at this. Protesters torched cars in the streets of Center City tonight. Philly police say at least 3 police cars and a Pennsylvania State Police car were torched. Police Commissioner Danielle Outlaw also says at least 13 police officers were hurt during the day with injuries like chemical burns and sprays. The city is under curfew tonight. That started at 8 o'clock. Everyone told to be inside.
Yeah, NBC 10's Aaron Baskerville joins us live. And Aaron, not everybody is listening to that curfew.
Denise, there's still people out right now, and to be honest, there's people looting across the street from us. But I just wanted to show you something real quickly that Keith was just talking about. One of those cars, it's right here. You can check out this Philadelphia police car, just absolutely torched, and right across the street, looters, right over there, Jason, walking out of Modell's over there with just, unfortunately, armloads of clothes on hangers. And this is part of what police were trying to do and are still trying to do. They're trying to enforce that curfew that started at 8 o'clock tonight. but people are still going into the Modell's. Before we get to some other video, let's just come over here, Jason. We can show you the Modell's window over here that's broken into over here, and people are still going in and out. People are actually driving into the city and picking up clothes that are on the ground. And then you can see this is the Modell's right here. Right now, we're in between 16th and 17th on Walnut. But let's go to some video that we shot earlier tonight. This was part of the police enforcing that curfew. Violent confrontations with some folks out there on Walnut. You can see that police officers at one point tackled at least a couple of people, trying to control them as they were going back and forth, shouting at each other. This was the process that they were doing around, this was actually 9 o'clock, a little bit later than the 8 o'clock start of the curfew, trying to push people back, push them back off the street. And here's what one of the demonstrators told us as he was getting pushed away by cops.
The country needs to see this. I'm telling you, you're going to have to extract something deeper. This is the pain that's been taking place for how long?
Keep moving.
For how long?
Keep moving.
For how long? This is why people are angry. Right? Hey, I just want to call hey.
So right there, you just heard some of the frustration, some of the anger that some of these demonstrators are feeling and experiencing. Let's not all forget this started as a peaceful demonstration in honor of George Floyd, who was killed in Minneapolis. That officer, of course, we all now facing third-degree murder. Also, take a look over here. You can see. You can see. You can see. Let's send it back to you guys right now.
Yeah.
But there are still people, of course, out on the streets, and they are still very upset and very angry.
Yeah, 3.5 hours rather after the curfew. Aaron, thank you so much. We've been watching that fire, by the way. Aaron was just there at 17th and Walnut. The pilot of Skyforce 10, Dan Kent, joins us now. Dan, you've been flying over this fire, that billowing black smoke. You've seen it reignite. What does it look like now?
Yeah, as soon as we think that the fire is almost out, it actually starts to flare up again. As you can see, now is one of those times when it's actually flaring up. There's also a massive amount of smoke, and this smoke has been blowing across the city from west to east. There's a pretty steady wind up here, and we could actually smell the fire burning all the way from where we take off from over at Penn's Landing, and the smoke is actually going all the way over to Jersey, over to Camden, New Jersey. But you can see again, now it's actually just started to flare up again. It seems to calm down, and then once we think it's under control, it catches some more fuel and ignites again. The firefighters are putting massive amounts of water down there. You could actually see the water running off the roof of the building down onto the sidewalk. But as you can see, once again, it seemed to have flared up.
You know, and take a look at this image. If you've never been to the city of Philadelphia or Walnut, they're closely packed in businesses there. It looks as though this is a difficult fire to get to, Dan. Correct me if I'm wrong. This is either, fenced in either by Moravian Street or Chancellor Street. Give us a good idea of where that fire is, because it looks like the only way they can attack it is by air, no?
Yeah, you're right. It's actually in the middle of the block there, and you can see they have one ladder truck right there that's extended. There's actually a second ladder truck over there, and they're trying to fight it from the air, like you said. There are also firefighters on the ground that are putting water in the second and third story windows. A while ago, we did see firefighters on the roof, but since it has picked up there, we haven't seen them. And there are also a few firefighters on the back of the block there that are actually fighting it from the back as well. But like you said, it's a tough fire to fight because it is in the middle of the block there.
Thanks. It was a day that started with peaceful demonstrations. You see, about 3,000 of them gathered along Aikens Oval and the Art Museum, and then suddenly it escalated into violence with fires, police cars set on fire, vandalism, some violence, and a gigantic fire on Walnut Street. You see all of the people that were out today, that continue to be out as police continue to enforce this curfew that began at 8 p.m. tonight. This fire is still raging for a city block about 17th and Walnut Streets, just alongside Chancellor. That's where firefighters continue to battle these flames.
And that's it for NBC 10 News at 11. Thanks so much for joining us tonight. We will continue to follow the chaos and the cleanup in Philadelphia throughout the night on NBC10.com.
For Denise Nakano, I'm Keith Jones. We'll bring you live coverage on NBC 10 News today. It's beginning at 5 a.m. Please be safe out there.